Hello everyone and thanks for stopping by. Here in front of me I have the S.H.Figuarts of the Marvel Spider-Man Advanced Suit. So this is a brand new action figure that's based on the exclusive PS4 title of the same name. Kind of like Marvel's start of the whole Marvel gaming universe. It was a pretty good game, so if you have a PS4 and you have yet to play this game, I recommend checking it out. But let me go through the packaging of this and then I'll show you the actual action figure itself, which looks pretty good so far. So this is the front. So you have the main logo at the front and then artwork of the figure as well. So it's not art or photographs of the actual action figure, but rather a new CG image. Maybe it's actually from one of the game's assets as well. Marvel logo, of course. This is the first print version. So first print being you get an included base stand, and I believe that might be the red stand in the background you can see there. Second print versions will not come with that stand, so if you're lucky you will get this. Here's a cool action figure too with a nice white emblem on this advanced suit, and a couple of the accessories and optional head parts that you get little bombs there too. So yeah, it looks pretty good so far. Background is a light blue, and then of course you've got the Tamashii Nations hologram sticker. So this one is still relatively new actually, but most of the, or if not all, of S.H.Figuarts action figure packages, official products, should have this sticker on them now. Again, it's not going to guarantee you a legit figure, but it's a good indicator nonetheless. Onto the side then, we've got a cool little pose again of Spider-Man. This is definitely taken from the game, and then spider symbol right there. Marvel Gamerverse logo, which is what I was talking about right here. Personally, I don't like this logo. It's like very kind of cheap magazine, gaming magazine logo. And then on the back then we see photographs of Spider-Man himself. So kind of just tells you what accessories you get, the optional parts that you get, and a couple of poses. And then the usual cautionary tale of photographs maybe a bit different to the actual action figure. Other side, you get another picture of Spider-Man and the pretty not unimpressive logo. Top is Spider-Man Advanced Suit. And then bottom, more of the cautionary tale or contact information if you like. So I'm going to open this, play around with it, and then run you through the actual figure from top to bottom. And here is the Advanced Suit Spider-Man out of the box. Quickly going to go back to the packaging briefly. So this is the background inlay that comes inside the box. I said it was a plain light blue, but it's actually got the Spider-Man symbol on there as well. So just kind of help you guys out if you've bought this figure and want to confirm if you've got the original version and such things, just the small details. So here's the figure. There's quite a lot to talk about with this figure. I've spent quite some time with it at this point, more than I would have with most other figures or any Spider-Man figure in general. So let me go through the hands and the other parts, and then I'll go through the figure itself. So skip ahead if you want to see all about the figure. So first, the parts. Let's go through the hands. So you see the two fists that are already applied to him, pretty standard for most figures, most Spider-Man figures too. So then here, of course, you're going to get the web hands. So these ones, of course, this is the advanced suit, so it's using everything and all the details based on the advanced suit featured in the game. So this now uses the white knuckles. You may like it, you may not. That's just down to you whether you like this suit overall. But the detail's pretty good on here. Kind of looks very much like bone. And then the other side, you've got the ribbing and the extra details on, say, the palm right here. You can see a little bit of detail. And then, of course, the bit that sticks out, which is the web shooter itself. Always dropping something. So, yeah, that's what expected. But they look pretty good. Actually, the detail and the sculpting on those is quite nice. Onto the other pair of hands. So these ones are to hold a web line, which you can see laying behind beside him. So these, I will show you how to use those momentarily. Then we get another pair of hands, which these are to kind of hold accessories. So the phone that he has, which is just behind, is a very, very tiny piece. Actually, these hands aren't so great to hold the phone. I feel the phone is very, very tiny, and it just kind of slips out all the time. Then you've got these hands. These are displayed on the box to use to hold the web grenades that you get two of right there as well. These are not bad. They do the job, but otherwise I'm not, they're nice that they included them, but I wouldn't really use them myself personally, or too much. Then we got the final pair of hands. So these ones are just his kind of action hands. Very useful for when you're posing, excited, just kind of crawling. The web crawler hands, basically. So these are a must for any Spider-Man figure. And again, they use the whole detail throughout. So all the hands are pretty consistent, nicely painted. Not much in terms of shading, but they are quite good. Onto the webbing itself. So the webbing is pretty familiar if you've got the previous S.H.Figuarts figures, and even the Mafex one actually. So you get the first strand, which is a long plain white zip line. So the white on this is actually kind of a milk white, I would say. It's not a translucent that the S.H.Figuarts Avengers Spider-Man figures had. This is a plain white, and I quite like this kind of a white shade, the milk white that I'm talking about. It's not focusing so much, but yeah, hopefully you can see them in the next line. Let's try this. But yeah, this is the straight one that you kind of just use in certain sort of poses. You feed this bit here in through to the hand. I'll show you which one is that right here. You could use the other side as well, but this one, because it's a thinner point, it kind of goes all the way through like so. And there we go, he's kind of holding that. So it looks pretty good and it holds very, very well. Try not to bend. It does flex a little bit and curve, but don't actually do tight bends because you'll end up ruining the web line. I'll put that to the side. Then you get a web shot long version. So this one again using a whole milk white, and it looks pretty good. Most of these are pretty much the same molds as previous Spider-Man figures. This one on the bit here, this is supposed to go over the wrist joint. I'll show you that later on. But this one, I think mine actually like cracked right here. I actually cannot remember. But the reason why I say I think is because this one is not cracked, it's all solid. But it's not a big deal. It does still stay in place because you sandwich it between the wrist and then the actual hand as well. So you get a small web shot line too. Then you get this other long web line. So this one is to grab onto. So in this little right angle, more than a right angle here, you just feed that into the hand as well. Same hand, just feed it from the top like so. And then you can change the position of this so you can flip it the other way around if you want to. But there we go, he's kind of pulling on stuff. So very useful one to have if you want him to pose in actual swinging or pulling enemies towards him. This one is new to the Spider-Man figures in general from S.H.Figuarts. So this is a web wrap hand. So this one actually goes onto the same hand again from the bottom. So you can see this little peg-like thing right here. So this kind of goes right at the bottom. So actually, let me show you that again. So what you see, it's actually coming out from this side, the left side, and not the right side. So you want to get the left side. I hope I can get this right. So you want to do the left side and feed that in to the bottom of this hand. It does work on the other hand, and it is a bit fiddly, more so on this side of or doing it behind the camera. So basically you get this on, and what it does, it kind of gives the illusion that it's wrapped around, he's grabbing something. By doing it on the underside, you still free up this hole right here to place the other long web zip line. So I'm going to grab this one, and then you just give it, make sure there's some clearance there. If not, you just move the web line a bit, feed that through, and that's it. I think this is actually a very, very cool little addition. It's a very, very small addition, but a very, very effective piece as well. And it works really well, and it looks really, really good once you equip the hand. So I'm going to leave that placed like that, and then I'll try and swap the hand later, just kind of illustrate. If not, the pictures are at the end and on my Instagram. Then you've got eyes. So I'm going to go through the eyes. Spider-Man, of course, comes with different kind of expressions in the comic book. That's just the kind of character he is. So you need eyes to reflect that. Spider-Man PS4 Advanced Suit does have mechanical eyes, very much similar to the movie MCU version of the Spider-Man suits. So you get different types of eyes. So you got the default head, which is kind of like a neutral pair of eyes, and they stick out a little bit. You can kind of see, I'll get into that more in a bit. They're very cool though. Then you get this top piece here, which is squinty eyes, which you can kind of use in like puzzled expressions or things like that. Then you got slightly more angular squinty eyes. These I would say is a bit more when he's more angry or something, but again, you can kind of figure out which one you want to use for the reaction you're trying to portray. They also, by the way, come with the little pegs, so you just use this tool in my right hand, take off the head, and then protract it out, and I'll show you how to do that. Don't lose them because they're very, very small. I'm not going to show you how to use these eyes. I'll just take one out and then show you how to put it back, just because I don't want to lose them because they're quite tiny. Speaking of losing though, you get these web grenades, which are very tiny, and they just roll around everywhere like so. So these are a red and silver foil-like ball. It really does remind me of just scrunching the foil paper into a ball. So I can't say I love these, but they do kind of look okay as well. But just try not to lose these. So I'm going to place these here, and hopefully they don't go anywhere. And if they do, I'll try and pick them up later on. Then you get this spider drone. So if you played the game, you can eventually unlock the drones, which can be quite nifty. They're pretty cool accessories or helpful kind of things to aid you in your like to battle against crime. But yeah, very nifty stuff. So this one is quite cool. It looks very, very cool with a nice spider red and the silver going on. It has a hole at the bottom so you can actually plug this into the stand, which I haven't actually gone into just yet. But this is a cool little addition for this figure. Then you get the phone accessory, which is just a plain black rectangular shaped object with a little bit of a sculpt there, which is just probably just a home button. This is really tiny, very, very, maybe it's not even a home button, sorry. This is very tiny, very thin, and it just kind of falls everywhere. So if you've got tiny hands, you probably manage it quite well. If not, then good luck. Then you get a bonus head. So this head is with more wide eyes. This is a very nice looking head. I love the eyes on this head, and even the eyes on the default head, just because they have this pearl white look to them, and it looks super like nice. The light that I've got shining on them just kind of makes them pop, so they look really cool. And then a little raise, kind of effect going on with them as well. I think it finishes off this head sculpt really, really well. Honestly, this is a really, really nice head sculpt. I do like it, but you cannot change the eyes on this head. This is just one head, one set of eyes, and that's it. The eyes only change on the default head. You get then these other small parts. So this one actually is just a little bit to kind of go onto the stand. This goes onto the back of the figure, and then you can kind of use the stand. But I don't think you really need this for everything, but it's there as well because it's quite useful to have. Then we have this magnetic piece. Not every S.H.Figuarts Spider-Man figure has ever come with a magnetic piece. I don't think the last lot did. So here we've got a magnetic piece. So this one you can just kind of plug into the back of the figure directly, and then kind of put them next to your fridge or something, or radiator, and you'll hang off of it quite well. I won't demonstrate that right now because I don't have any magnetic objects right next to me, but trust me on that one. It's good to have though, however. Finally then is the stand. So this stand is only included in the first release of this figure, which was what I mentioned right at the beginning of the video. So if you had the first print of this figure, you'll get this space stand here with let me move the figure here. So what you get is a nice red base with the Spider-Man symbol on there. The base is pretty much standard Tamashii Nations effect piece or effect stand. So it's nothing like crazy, like new or original that you may not already have in some form, but it's a nice addition for this figure anyway. And I always complain that S.H.Figuarts figures don't come with stands, so it's nice at least the first print does come with one, and this one no less. I've already partially assembled this. So what it is, you get 3 little segments, so 1, 2, and the top bit, which I'm going to take off because you can't actually see it. The top bit is a curved right angle bit that plugs into the back of the figure, and that's it really. You don't get any claw with this, sadly. I think that would have been a bit maybe a bit better actually. So sadly you don't get that claw with it. So I'm going to pop the stand to the side so it doesn't get in the way of things. Finally then, that brings me to the actual figure. Now the figure is something to talk quite a lot about. There's a lot to go over, but first let me just kind of show you the details, because of course this is now based on the video game suit, and we don't have that many figures based on a video game suit just yet. I know Marvel Legends exist, but I don't collect those, so I won't be able to do any videos on those. On first impression, looking at this figure, it does look really cool. In static poses, this guy stands out. The white really, really does stand out, and it's kind of like the explanation that Doc Ock explains in the game, how I think it was Doc Ock, maybe it was Pete or Doc Ock, I'm pretty sure it's Doc Ock, where having a bright white symbol with the rest of the suit kind of is distracting to your enemies, because that's what they're going to look at. And that kind of stays true for us regular humans too, where we just kind of focus on the white elements of this suit, which gives ample time to kind of knock us out should we be not paying attention. So this suit does look very, very good. The figure looks very good. The sculpt is very good, and the details overall look really, really nice. I mean, the web effects on everywhere is nice. It's not like just painted on, so that's really, really good. It's etched and painted, so it's got the light brown sort of paint going all the way around, even across the leg parts. You got the sneakers here, or running shoes, pumps, however you want to call them. I'm not a big fan of these designs in general, but they fit the overall look. And again, if this suit kind of has its lovers and it has its haters too, just like any suit. But overall, it is a very, very nice looking figure. But let me go through the all-important articulation. So the figure in general, before I get into articulation, is very similar to the previous Spider-Man figures from S.H.Figuarts. All the articulation engineering is quite similar course, this Spider-Man has a new suit and some kind of new molding to it, and he's a thicker kind of muscular character compared to Infinity War Spider-Man, which is more slender and thinner. But there's still some things to talk about, even though they are quite similar. So let's go through the articulation. Head can move up quite a lot. This is very, very good for Spider-Man. Same for moving down. Tilting side to side is a bit of an issue. Infinity War Spider-Man can tilt side to side very easily. I think this one is not that great. If you bend his head down a bit, then sometimes you can kind of tilt it, but not really. You kind of have to pull his head up a little bit, kind of like that, off the joint, and then you might be able to get something. But depending on the pose, his neck is going to look very long, and then you're going to get something like that. But generally, I don't think it's very good for tilting. For his shoulders, then, they move up around here. This is a little bit, like, not too stiff there, but so we drop down a bit, but about here, and then bring them out and around like so. There is no bicep cut here, but there is the swivel kind of thing replacement, if you like this. I still would prefer having this and the bicep cut. It just helps the overall articulation, especially for really dynamic athletic kind of characters like Spider-Man. So not having it again is a bit of a bummer, because again, the previous Spider-Mans didn't have it. Mafex does have it though, so that's really like question marks to me why they didn't do that. The other thing about the shoulder though, his shoulders are fairly big, so these kind of stop him from moving his arms back quite a bit. So this is as far as I can get him, like so. You can kind of play around with it, kind of just tuck the shoulder in to the butterfly joint, but it's still not going to get you the amount that the Mafex can do super easily. The Mafex one puts this one to shame in a lot of respects with that particular joint. So this is as far as you're going to get, and that's not really good enough for Spider-Man in my opinion. So yeah, that's the shoulder. Then the elbow, like so, which is pretty regular, and bending it back a little bit like that. I kind of prefer a little bit of a backwards bend for Spider-Man, but it's not a big deal. The hand then, also let me quickly show you the web shooter there. I didn't show you that in detail, so it's a cool little detail there. So the hand right here is it can go up and around and twist, but the hands do come off quite easily. So because of the little kind of gauntlet type of thing here, if you want to bend his hand a bit, it comes off super easily. So this is a problem where you might have him web shooting and you kind of want to bend his hand or wrist quite far back, and you just can't do it without it kind of coming off. This happens on almost every single hand on both sides, so that's super annoying. It means you're kind of forced to work with a very limited range of posing, especially for web shooting, like I said. And even if you're kind of going to have him resting his hand wall crawling, or crawling in general, it's a bit disappointing, to be quite honest. I say a bit, but I'm kind of understating my disappointment with that. So I hope they can improve this if they do a version 2 of this sometime down the line. Torso, you can bend his torso like so, and then backwards like so, twist. By twisting, he can lean as well. If you keep him regular, his leaning doesn't stay, but it's still there if you need it. Then he can twist lower a little tiny bit as well. This is where I also don't like it. He can't lean back on the lower portion at all. It's super annoying actually, because the other figures can do it to a better degree. Maybe not as much still that I'd like. Mafex does it perfectly, but this guy, yeah, he just can't lean back, and that's kind of annoying. It makes some of his poses a little bit too stiff. Then bringing down to the legs. So the legs do not use any pull down. They have a little twist at the thigh right here, and then they can kind of go up. Again, with the detail, you can see the little creasing at the crotch area, which is a nice attention to detail again. And you can also kind of see this is again using similar sort of stuff that the previous Spider-Man figures had, with the butt cheeks being separated and then a sort of thong sort of look going on. I don't personally like that for Spider-Man either. I think there are better ways to do it. You can obstruct it from certain poses and how you display him. So it's not like the worst thing, but it's not my favorite or ideal way to do Spider-Man. I just don't like the thong, to be quite honest. But carrying on with the articulation, so you got a twist and you can kick up like so. You can't kick up too much, so you're gonna have to twist it to get even further range. Very easy thing to get work around. Bending his knee like so. Ankle then is another problem I had. So his ankle on mine, both sides were fairly stiff, and when you first take it out of the box, what's going to happen is you might only be able to get it about that much. What you need to do is pull it a little bit like so, and then you'll get a much bigger raise out of it, and then it will go over his ankle basically. So you may or may not like that, and of course over time you're probably going to get some wear and tear in that side. But this is how you get around and get that extra range for his feet, which you definitely need for this figure, because his lower portion of articulation is a bit limited. I find he cannot squat very well. Actually, I'm going to show you that right now. He can't squat all too great and look good doing it without, he's going to be able to do like squats where he's hunting decently, but when you kind of want a relaxed squat, he's not going to be able to do it. And I'll show you Spider-Man Mafex one who can do that very simply. But let me run through the articulation, finish the articulation. So that's how you do the ankle, sorry. Similarly, if you want to point it backwards, just do that, and then you'll get it. Again, this took me a bit of time to kind of get around its frustrations, but I don't mind it now. So this bit is less of an issue for me, but it might be one of the big issues for certain people who get this figure, but you can get around it. I've just shown you, and then it looks fine. Toe hinge is there, and then a rocker, like so. So I believe that's all the articulation then. So it's nothing overly new with this figure. With the Spider-Man Infinity War, there's a bit more range you can do with that figure because it's a slimmer build. But because of this guy's slightly bulkier nature, shoulders being here and then his pants being a bit thicker, and overall just being a bit thicker, he's a bit more stocky, if you like. He still looks good in a lot of poses, but like I said, squatting is one of them in a relaxed way that he just simply cannot do very well. I think this is pretty poor for Spider-Man. It's just not good. I think I just don't like it. I'm doing a very rough pose to kind of show you, but I'm not a big fan of it. You can kind of get him into a different pose like that, and then it's not so bad, but I want him to go a bit lower, and this is where the Mafex one, which I'm going to bring up right now, he can do it quite well. I'm going to place him down, and the Mafex one is generally very balanced as a figure, so he can stand on his own without much effort as well. I'm pretty much on not got the most perfect balance here right now, but he still stands or squats, and it's very simple. Whereas Spider-Man on the Advanced Suit S.H.Figuarts, it's just not the same. So I hope they can improve on that one day in the future. But other poses you can still get, but again you're going to have limited sort of range when it comes to the upper part, and then that includes because of the bigger shoulders, and also because you don't have the bicep cut, which just really is quite important to a Spider-Man figure, I feel. So that's articulation. So let's go through the parts on how to kind of swap them out quickly. So the head, you just kind of pull off the head, and this is where you can do the eye swapping. So you can see the little pegs inside right there. Grab this nifty little tool. If you lose it, you can try using like a pencil or something, and all you do is push an eye out, and there you see it come out, and that's it. Swap them out for any eye of your choice, and then make some cool poses and reactions out of it. Swapping it to the other head, which you can't change the eyes on, just in case of placing the head on top. That's it. For the hands then, so I already applied the web earlier on in the video, so this was his left hand. So all I'm going to do is take off the left hand and then line this up. Hopefully the joint doesn't move like it does there. And then yeah, just squeeze it in. Obviously this might be a bit tricky because these joints are small and I've got the webs on, so it makes it even harder. But there we go, that's the hand equipped. And it looks pretty good. Once you get it into a nice pose, it will look very cool. Again, this is with the little extra wrap piece going on. Then what else have we got? The back piece, which I actually didn't show you properly. So this is where you can plug in the metal bit and the stand. So you just peel off the center bit. Hopefully the paint does not get damaged. And you see the hole in the back. And this, you just plug the stand in here or this metal bit like so, and then hang him off your metal object. So very simple to do. Then to also show you the other web line that gets sandwiched, so what I'll do, I'll get his right web hand, and I'll get the small web piece, which is here. So you just place that over the joint like so, get the hand, and then just sandwich them. You may need to do this a couple of times to get used to it, because you see it's tiny again. align it so the web comes out from the top and in this position correctly, and there you go. Now we're shooting somewhere pretty easy to do. Can be fiddly at times because his joints are quite small, but overall, not on a most complicated scale. So this is the Spider-Man S.H.Figuarts Advanced Suit based on the PlayStation 4 game. Now let me quickly bring out the Infinity War S.H.Figuarts to kind of show you what that looked like. Now, if you look to this figure very quickly, you can see a lot of it is quite similar from the hip articulation and everything like that. It's all very, very similar, including the ever important thong thing going on. I do hope they kind of change that in the future, but we'll see. So then let me also bring out the Mafex one again. I had him in a squatting position earlier, and I still got him like that. In terms of height, so this Spider-Man Advanced Suit one, the PS4 version, is around 14.5 centimeters, and then this one, I actually forgot the measurement of it, and it's probably going to be about 15.5, I guess. Guessing that one. I should know just off by heart, but I don't, sadly. So I'll put it in as a text overlay. So yeah, he's a bit taller. There goes Spider-Man Infinity War. So he's a bit taller, a bit more spindly as well, and definitely easier to articulate and pose. In general, though, this figure, because this is the one we're talking about, I had a lot of frustration with this to a point where I was thinking there's certain things that this guy should be able to do that this guy, the Mafex one, can do so much easily. So I pulled this guy out, played around with certain things like the squatting pose, for example, and for a while I found myself I was more engrossed and immersed with this figure, where I was almost giving up to even talk about this figure because I was just too frustrated with it. It wasn't looking dynamic enough. It just looked really just kind of fat and sluggish and stuff, just very, very stocky looking in terms of dynamic posing. So I was getting very frustrated to do this video, but over having spent time with him, I managed to get over my frustrations such that I actually do quite like this figure now. There are still issues that I talked about with the shoulders, this hip sort of crotch area looking like it does, the lower portion, the ankles especially, and the squatting in general. But it's not a bad Spider-Man figure. I do quite like it quite a bit, actually. It's not my favorite Spider-Man figure, and I'll probably still give it to this one or the Revoltech. But it's still not a bad Spider-Man figure. The question I guess a lot of people are going to ask is which Spider-Man figure, if they only could get one, and they didn't care which suit it was, out of what I've got in my own collection, I would still probably recommend the Mafex one. This or the comic version that's coming out in December, because it's based on the same sort of mold and everything. This still has its own issues as well. You might not like its spindly nature and things like that, but it can get you the poses, the really, really cool, very dynamic poses that Spider-Man is capable of. And this gets super close and perfects a lot of the poses. This still has some work to go, and this one sadly I wouldn't even bother with. Maybe the Mafex one because it's got a better look, but I wouldn't bother with this particular one. So yeah, I would say get the Mafex if you can afford to get it, because it is on a higher price in general. But if you do really, really love this advanced suit, then yeah, why not? It's not a bad Spider-Man figure. Again, it's just it could be better in a few places. That said, though, if they did do another one, which they are actually, they're doing an Antioch costume, I very much hope they take a lot of this feedback into consideration and change and improve on those bits, because that's all it needs is a little bit of tweaking in certain areas, and it could be a much, much better figure and start being more competitive with the Mafex all over again. But as it is, it's not on that level just yet. But the Antioch, I have pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered that after I had opened this figure, so I kind of regretted pre-ordering it at first when I was frustrated, but now I will still do a kind of review or look on the Antioch figure when that comes out. However, I really will hope that they do a Scarlet Spider or a Spider-Man 2099 costume skin of this figure, with improvements of course, because those two costumes look incredible in the game. So if you haven't played the game, by the way, I'm going to plug the game too. So it's a pretty good Spider-Man game, a pretty great superhero game, bit repetitive at times, but still a really, really solid effort. So check it out if you've got a PS4, like I said. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. There was a lot to talk about with this figure in terms of parts, accessories, things I liked, things I didn't. So I hope you stuck through a lot of it. And if you agree with some of those or don't agree with some of those, then yeah, it would be great if you left a comment below to let me know what you thought of this figure, because I know a lot of people were excited over this because they may have skip the Legends version of it. But thank you for watching. Check out my channel for more videos on action figures across the S.H.Figuarts and Figma line and other things like that. Stay safe wherever you are. It's a dangerous world out there these days. We don't have Spider-Man in real life to protect us, and enjoy whatever it is that you're doing. Innocent things, good things. See you in the next video, guys. Peace out.